Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of Today in Sports Betting. I know that there's something a little bit differently, as you were expecting Scott Steen to do the introduction, as he normally does. However, he actually came down with a sinus infection, and he is not available for today's show. But as they say in show business, the show must go on, especially on Hump Day. And we have some golf coming up tomorrow, and I cannot break it down alone. So I ended up bringing on the Dominator to give his thoughts on the Memorial Golf Tournament. So without further ado, Dave, thanks for coming on the show. How's it going, man?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. Been doing the golf preview since the restart, and it's a great sport, and it should be a lot of fun this week. There's a lot of big names in the tournament.
Yep, definitely a very entertaining sport that has carried some of the burden for the sports bettors at least. Unfortunately, I wish the golf coverage was a little bit better on television, but that's a separate story, which I'm sure you can relate to. It's a disaster trying to find golf on television because it's usually never on. But I've already ranted about that maybe 3 or 4 times on the show in the past. How do you try to watch the golf tournaments?
I actually, first 2 rounds I just follow it on PGA Tour.com.
Oh, you're talking about the leaderboard?
And then during the weekends it's a little easier. Usually at 2 or 3, I think they come on with on the major networks.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they usually only have about 2 hours of coverage when they have 9 hours of golf. So that's kind of my gripe that I have with the issue. But either or, doesn't really matter. At least we finally have some sports upon us, and you have more sports coming within the next couple of weeks. Now, even though it has been a while since we have had you on the show, there is a little bit of a deja vu aspect for this tournament. Is there going to be playing this tournament on the same exact golf course they played last week? Dave, you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, Muirfield. It's a nice course. It's pretty long, one of the longer ones. It will give some of the golfers who played last week an advantage over the golfers who didn't play last week. Justin Thomas comes to mind. He had a great showing before falling in the end, and now he has a chance to redeem himself this week. And a lot of the coverage though is going to be on Tiger. Tiger Woods is making his first appearance, but this is a course that he has owned in his career. He's got 5 wins on it, and he's just, it's going to be exciting to see, what he can do this week, because, this is his first start since the restart of the season. So
yes, this is the first public appearance he has made in golf since the very fun exhibition that he had with Phil Mickelson, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning. So we'll see what exactly he's been working on in practice, etc. But either or, something is worth mentioning that even though it is going to be the same golf course as last week at Muirfield Village Golf Club, there are going to be a couple of changes made to the golf course, so expect this week to be a little bit more difficult than it was last week. I know that typically you see lower scores here. Last week was kind of an exception for the Workman Charity tournament, but either or, it is going to be a little bit more difficult with regard to pin location. They also are changing up the roughs and the greens a little bit to make it a little bit faster for the putting. So you should see a little bit lower scores. I don't expect you to see another guy roughly around 19 under. I'd assume that the winning score should be around, Dave, what would you guess? Around 12 under, maybe, something along those lines?
Between, around 13 to 15 under, I think could probably do it,
Yeah, I agree with that. It's kind of interesting because even though the strategy should definitely help the players who have played on the golf course last week in comparison to the people who are coming off a layoff like Tiger Woods, etc., it is worth mentioning that even though it's the same course just by design, it will be a little bit different. It might play a little bit like a different golf course because of some of the changing features that the actual people on the course, are trying to change with regard to the rough and the greens, etc.
And the pin placement and all that stuff. Yeah, it will be different. The one thing that they can't change is the water. 11 holes. Water is play on 11 holes in this course. So,
well, there's definitely
while it is a long course, it's not designed for the huge hitters, because there's a lot of, you have to be precise off the tee, and or water. Like I said, water comes into play. They're not as big. They're not as straight as a couple of weeks ago. I think it was the one that Bryson DeChambeau won.
The Rocket Mortgage.
That was a long course, but it was also a lot of straight shots. So the big hitters paid, it was big dividends for them. This week, you got to be a little bit more precise off the tee.
Yeah, well, that was actually what I was going to touch upon briefly for comparison. There are a ton of water hazards here, as you alluded to. The Rocket Mortgage tournament that happened 2 weeks ago has a grand total of 1. They have 1 water hazard in the entire course. This one has in the double digits. So definitely a lot more room for, a lot less room for error, I should say, in this tournament in comparison to Rocket Mortgage. It's mostly a second-shot golf course, though. As we saw last week with Morikawa and Thomas, their iron play was phenomenal, and Morikawa eventually got the better of that playoff exchange. But enough preview. It's time to dive into some of the props and outrights that we have for the actual tournament. And as you know, and all of you know at home, typically we give out 3 outrights each, 2 normals with 1 long shot, with the long shot being 30-1 or higher. But either or, I'll let Dave kick it off first. Dave, who's the first golfer that jumped off the page for you for this tournament?
Patrick Cantlay. He's the defending champion here. He's been playing well of late. Last week he finished 7th on this course, and prior to that, it was an 11th place finish at the Travelers Championship. He's been very consistent all year with 3 top 10s in 7 events, and hasn't finished worse than 17 in each of his last 6 starts. He's got some good numbers too. He's 63rd in driving accuracy, 58th in driving distance, 11th in greens in regulation, 37th in sand percentage, and 46th in putting, and 7th in tee to green. This is a course that could set up nicely for him, because he's got good numbers all around, and he also had he shot a 64 in the final round last week, so he's got some momentum coming in. And even though, like you said, this isn't gonna be the exact same course as far as pin placements and everything, it still has to give a golfer some confidence knowing that they shot so well in the final round of last week in the same course.
Well, Dave, I got news for you, whether it's good or bad. My first outright bet for this tournament is Patrick Cantlay. At 16-1 on Fox Bet is the line that I got available for me. I know that it was roughly around 16-1 market wide before some money came in on Cantlay at FanDuel and DraftKings, I believe, which caused his number to drop. I gave him out last week, I should say, and even though he was pretty underwhelming for the first 3 days, anytime you shoot a 7-under on Sunday and have to play on the exact same golf course the week after, definitely a good sign. He also won the tournament last year, as you talked about earlier. He's played on this course 4 times. He's finished 7th, 1st, 4th, and 35th. So even though people are going to be looking at some of the huge favorites in DeChambeau and Thomas, etc., you're going to be hard-pressed to find another golfer with as good of a track record on this golf course as Patrick Cantlay. And 16-1, I feel like you kind of have to play it. I know that you might think, well, that's a little bit too short for me. I'd rather take a Rory or take one of these guys who are higher up on the top 10 players of the world, rankings, etc. Cantlay's also in the top 10, so it's not like Cantlay's that far off, and he has been very successful on this golf course in the past. So yeah, I'm with you. Great minds think alike, which means Cantlay probably will miss the cut, but hopefully he'll be able to cash a nice 16-1 ticket for the 2 of us. So a little bit of an anticlimactic start, as both of us had the exact same golfer to start. But you want to talk about your second golfer you have for this tournament?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're gonna probably disagree in the next 2. You'll probably have two different ones. But
the truth is, hopefully, because if we agree on this, we'll be out of here in about 5 minutes.
Well, I have Justin Thomas as my second one. He's second on the odds list for this tournament. I think he's gonna finish what he didn't finish last week. He has had just 2 top 10 finishes, 3 missed cuts, and a 37th finish here in 6 tries at the Memorial. But he's just playing so very well at the moment. He he finished second last week, obviously. He's second on the tour on tee to green, 19th off the tee, second in approach to green, 15th in greens in regulation, 79th in putting, and fourth in sand save percentage. He's got the all-around game for a course that, those are numbers that show precise, precision, and that's what you need to beat this course. And I just feel that he's going to come up and finish what he started last week, and come up as pick up the win here this week.
So, yeah, I definitely understand where you're coming from there, especially just as how consistent he looked over the course of the entire weekend. It wasn't like he had one or two rounds that jumped off the page. He was pretty consistent from Thursday to Sunday. Unfortunately, Morikawa was just a little bit better on Sunday, and that's all that really mattered. For me, at that price point, I have to pass. I do agree that Justin Thomas is one of the best golfers on the planet, and after last week's performance and how he came up a little bit short, he should be very motivated to actually get the job done the second time around. I just can't take a price like that. It's so difficult to win a golf tournament that I just can't back the same guy to lose in a playoff and then win it the following week. I just think that's a little bit too difficult, especially at that roughly 10-1 price point, which is a little bit too low for me. One thing I'm a little bit concerned about, which I want to ask your opinion about, after choking away such a golden opportunity last week, being up by 3 shots with 3 holes to go, are you a little bit concerned that might, linger a little bit mentally? Does that play a factor for you, Dave? Because I'm a little bit concerned that might be in Thomas's head.
Yeah, I mean, it could. It just Thomas has been so consistent this year, and I just think that he's a guy that can put it behind him, and he has his 2 top 10 finishes here were really he played really well, and that's in the Memorial. That doesn't include last week's top 10 finish on this course. So I think that he's going to be able to put it behind him. He's just been so consistent all year that it gives him a great shot to put it behind him and walk away with the win in this one.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. It just kind of concerns me a little bit. Maybe it's just how I'm wired, but if I blew a 3-shot lead for over $1 million payday, I probably would be thinking about it the following week. Maybe that's just me. But then again, I'm not a professional golfer making millions of dollars pretty much every month. But yeah, Justin Thomas, definitely a top-tier golfer. I understand that. My question for you, I know hopefully this isn't your third golfer, because if it is, then it's a massive spoiler alert. If you're into Justin Thomas this week, do you have any thoughts on Morikawa, who's also going to be playing the Memorial?
Yeah, I stayed away from Morikawa because I just he last week he won, and he was coming off his first missed cut, and he won it last week. So I'm just expecting a bit of a letdown here.
Well, he was also going for the all-time cut record.
Yeah, he was, so I'm expecting a bit of a letdown. That's why I didn't have him as my third golfer. So.
Okay, I was just curious, because if you think Cantley's going to be great after a pretty solid showing last week, and you think Thomas is going to be very good following a solid showing, I was curious what your thoughts were on the guy who actually won the tournament last week. I'm with you on that one. I do like Morikawa as a golfer. However, it's not a shocking statement to say that it's pretty much impossible to win golf tournaments back-to-back weeks unless you're Tiger Woods in 2005. So I wouldn't take Morikawa, especially at that reduced price point in comparison to last week's outright. Would I be shocked if he finishes in the top 20 again? No. But for Morikawa, I just have to assume that he's going to look a little bit worse. I don't want to say he had the tournament of his life last week, but if you look at his Thursday and Friday, after a pretty underwhelming Saturday, his Thursday and Friday were insane. He was up by roughly 3 shots going into the weekend. That's definitely something that I don't think is that sustainable. So I would expect Morikawa to play a little bit worse moving forward. But I do agree with you that Thomas should be a solid contender. I'm just not interested at the 10-1 price point. For this second golfer I'm going to be talking about, somebody who actually did not play last week, which might come as a bit of a surprise because I am a big fan of sample size and players who have any type of competitive advantage. And I think playing on this course last week does, showcase a little bit of an advantage. But it's going to be one guy who has been really good all year, kind of came out of nowhere, won a tournament a couple of weeks ago. It's going to be Daniel Berger. And I like him at 40-1 on DraftKings. That line is pretty much universal, and you can find that anywhere else. Since the restart, Berger's been in 2 tournaments. He's finished 3rd, and he's finished 1st. Berger is a tremendous golfer. People might not know who he really is. He ended up winning the Rookie of the Year in the PGA Tour a couple of years ago before having some injury issues, which caused him to miss roughly a year and a half of competition. But as of right now, Berger's one of the best golfers on the planet. And at 40-1, I just think that number's too high. I know that he did not play last week, and you have to wonder if that already starts him at a disadvantage, which it might. But from top to bottom, Berger's just so consistent in every single aspect of the game. And I think at first glance, his number should be closer to 30-1 than 40-1. So for me, for value alone, I'll throw a little sprinkle on Berger at 40-1 to get the job done. You have any thoughts on that, Tiff?
I actually looked at Berger as a possible long shot. I didn't go with it, but he's 40th or better in all the major categories. And that's consistency, as you said, and I think that you could be onto something with Daniel Berger. I've seen some people around the internet that do like that pick, so I'm not hating it at all.
Well, it was, for me, a lot of it is based on the fact that with golf, as everybody knows, picking outrights is, I don't want to say impossible, but it's very, very improbable because you have so many people in the field. So at the end of the day, you might notice a lot of people on YouTube or, professional handicappers in golf, they tend to just give out people based on the number instead of the probability of actually winning because that's almost impossible to predict. So I'm looking at Berger saying at this price point, he has to win 1 tournament every 40 trips, give or take. I think that number is just way too high. I don't know what number you would put there, Dave. I think something around 28-1 sounds about right, maybe a little bit lower even. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, 25-1 sounds about right.
Yes, I agree.
So you're getting value with Berger there. That's for sure.
So I'm mostly giving out I usually give out 2 relative favorites around the 16-1 range, maybe a little bit lower every now and then, followed by 1 long shot. But with such a deep field, I feel like you might be better off trying to find some value with some of these underrated golfers, so to speak, because a lot of people are just going to be bulking up on either Cantlay or even DeChambeau or Thomas or Rory, all these guys who everyone loves to bet. Probably Tiger's going to get some action as well, just because of the fact that how could you not root for Tiger in any given
right, yeah.
But, yeah, at 40-1, I like Berger there. But switching gears a little bit, you want to talk about your third outright for this tournament?
Yep, I'm going to go with another favorite. Back in 2018, Bryson DeChambeau had 3 wins and 9 top 10 finishes in 26 starts. One of those wins was right here at the Memorial. Now, he is better than that version of Bryson DeChambeau. He's already had 8 top 10 finishes in just 11 starts this year, and his last start, it was his first win of the season. He's been on a roll since the restart with 4 top 8 finishes in 4 events, and overall he's got now he's finished 8th or better in his last 7 starts. Very consistent. He comes in ranked 1st on the tour off the tee, 6th in tee to green, 36th in approach to green, 12th in putting, 5th in greens and regulation, 6th in sand save percentage. He didn't play last week, which could put him at a bit of a disadvantage, but I like him because he's just been so consistent, and his numbers have him where he could be great on this course, I think.
Well, the truth is that if you're trying to find a hotter golfer on the planet, you're going to have a long time looking, because he definitely is the hottest golfer on the planet right now, and he should be well rested. I'm not sure how much fatigue will play a factor. You might have to wonder about people like Hovland, etc. Even though they're young, playing every single tournament since the restart might take a toll on you physically. And the Shambo coming into this tournament off of a week off is definitely, in my opinion, a plus. I think that should help, but you have to wonder if not playing on the same course that the Memorial is going to be at last week is going to hurt him. Either or, you really don't need to justify taking DeChambeau, if I'm being honest. He's the best golfer on the planet right now, based on current form. So if you want to take him, you can. Of course, once again, it's pretty tough for me to take him at lines that short in such a deep field. So I'm going to pass. But I really can't criticize that play at all based on how good he's played lately, especially with success in
He
the
also won the tournament back in 2018. So
yeah, that's what I was about to say. He has won this tournament in the past as well, so it's not like you're picking him despite having a pretty underwhelming track record here. If you've won the tournament in 2018 and you won your last golf tournament with finishing in the top 10 pretty much in every single tournament since the restart and even a little bit before that, I really can't argue with making the case to take him. But at that current price point, I'm going to have to pass. But I definitely understand where you're coming from. My third pick is going to be on a little bit of a long shot. Not really, because it's unlike most weeks, I'm giving out a 40-1 as my second choice here before the long shot. But I'm going to be looking at somebody who had a lot of success last week, and I think this price point, once again, for value alone, is a little bit too high. It's going to be on Gary Woodland, and he's currently available at 45-1 on Fox Bet. Every other sports book, he's 37-1 or lower, so I'm already getting an extra $8 of value just by taking him on Fox Bet. He finished 5th here last week. I know that he was one of the best putters in the entire tournament last week, which I'm not sure is that sustainable. But Woodland was, I'd say, decent for the first 2 days, and he was phenomenal over the weekend, which caused him to finish top 5. 45-1 for a guy who just finished top 5 here last week seems a little bit high to me. I think this number should be around, I'd say, 35-1 or even 30-1. Plus, Woodland knows how to win, as people remember him winning the U.S. Open in the past. So he does have a major in his back pocket. He knows how to win in these very, very deep fields. And Woodland looked very good last week. So if he's able to even look anywhere near as good as he did putting, but he's able to work on his driver a little bit, which gave him some issues earlier in the week, I think he could easily finish in the top 10. I think he's got a pretty good shot of staying in contention once again. And at 45-1, that seems a little bit too high for me, so I'm going to pull the trigger on that as my quote-unquote long shot of the tournament. You have any thoughts on that, Dave?
No, that's also a good pick. I mean, I haven't really studied him, but it's still. I didn't study him for this week. I didn't. But I have seen around the internet where some do like Woodland as a solid play.
I think that number's too high for a guy who just finished top 5 last week. It just seems a little weird to me at 45-1. Now, I think the main reason for that is because the putting was so good. People are just going to assume that it's not sustainable, and he will kind of come back down to earth based on the law of averages kind of thing. But at 45-1, I feel like I kind of have to pull the trigger on that one. So that's my thoughts on the outrights. Those are yours. But time to switch gears talking about the props here. You want to start us off? Do you have any props that jump off the page for you to start?
Well, I put it under props, but I do have a long shot that I'm going with. I'm going to take Adam Hadwin at plus 8,000 on Bet Online. And he hasn't had great success on this course yet, and he did finish just 35th last week, but still, that could give him some extra information for this, coming into this week's event. He is he did finish 4th in the Rocket Mortgage Classic, and he comes in ranked 34th tee to green, 29th approach to green, 20th in putting, 27th in driving accuracy, 17th in greens and regulation, and he's first on tour in sand save percentage. So he has some very solid numbers, and I think that he could be a live play at plus 8,000. So I'm taking him as my long shot.
Well, Hadwin looked pretty good last week as well. I believe he was on pace to be the first-round leader before Morikawa went off and shot 7 under on the first day. So I know Hadwin definitely looked great for the first couple of days, kind of fell off during the weekend. But at that price point, I can't really argue with that. He's a pretty consistent golfer. And, yeah, at a price like that, every now and then, what do you have to win? 1 out of 80 to be profitable? Give or take? So, when you look at it that way, you kind of hard-pressed to make an argument against playing a guy like that. I haven't looked at any real super long shots, but I always have a weakness for some of the Canadians. Hadwin, Corey Connors, those guys, they're pretty consistent guys, so I can't argue with that play. My first prop, first of all, I'm going to give a little bit of a disclaimer here. If you are a huge Tiger Woods fan, you might find some of my plays blasphemous. I'm just going to throw that out there, but I'm going to dive right in here. My first play, Tiger to miss the cut. It's going to be at plus 300 on FanDuel. Now, if you check it now, it's plus 225, but it was plus 300 on Tuesday or even Monday as well, and I ended up grabbing that earlier in the week. Simply put, it's plus 185 on DraftKings, so if you do still want to take it at plus 225, you still get roughly 40 cents. I got $1.15 of value there. But simply put, even though Tiger's been really good here in the past, I have to assume Russ is going to play a factor. We've talked about how deep the tournament is in terms of the field, and Tiger hasn't played live golf since the exhibition 2v2 tournament roughly a month and a half ago, and he hasn't actually played in a real golf tournament since the Genesis, where he finished dead last in the field. Plus 300 to miss the cut is just insane, especially for a 28-1 guy to win the tournament. I think miss the cut should be around plus 150, plus 160, just based on the fact that he hasn't played in so long. Plus 300. I know that there are a lot of Tiger fans out there who are going to be upset by that play, and will make the argument, how can you bet against Tiger as the greatest of all time? And even though a part of me kind of hopes I lose this prop because I do love watching Tiger play, I can't turn down 3-1 a guy who hasn't played in a real golf tournament in months. That's just my 2 cents. Right. So my first play is Tiger to miss the cut at plus 300.
I am a big Tiger fan, but I don't.
It's not a great spot for him. I know he's been great tournament here in the past. This spot is terrible.
The only thing that concerns me is that he's made the cut all 17 times he's played this course. So he's got 9 top 10 finishes and 13 top 25s in 17 events. So that is the only thing that concerns, because I was looking at that also, missing the cut, but I didn't play it because he's never missed a cut here. So
it's mostly just the value for me, but I understand. It's one of those hold your nose picks for me, just based on the lines. But that's my first thought. I'm actually going to be having a couple of Tiger props over the weekend. Some good, some bad. So if you want to, Dave, you can touch upon your second prop.
I have 2 Tiger props. I'll get to both of them now. The first one is a tournament matchup. I do like to root for Tiger, but and I do think that he will make the cut. But I have Bryson DeChambeau beating Tiger by 1.5 strokes for the weekend at minus 145 on BetOnline. I don't think Tiger's going to finish in top 10 or anything like that. And Bryson DeChambeau is one of my favorites to win it. So, I think that he can beat Tiger Woods by 2 strokes during the course of the tournament.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, good. I'm sorry.
I was going to say it's a lot of juice, but compared to just talking about how good DeChambeau is and how Tiger hasn't played in so long, I feel like that juice is definitely warranted. So it's one issue if you want to make the argument saying, well, this is a heavily juiced play. I'm not a big fan of it. People view it incorrectly. The point is that there could be value available even with large amount of juice if you believe that it should be higher. So you can make the argument DeChambeau should be, minus 160 in that based on how good he's been, potentially even higher. So, minus 143. It sounds like a lot of juice, but in reality, probably not.
Well, yeah, I mean, he is the favorite to win the tournament, and Tiger will probably finish around 20th or, between 20th and 15th in this tournament. So you got to figure that no matter what, Tiger's not going to come to within 2 strokes of DeChambeau. So, at 145, it seems like it's a little bit low.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
The other Tiger prop I have is I'm playing the under 336.5 yards for his longest drive of the tournament at minus 130. he doesn't have the Tiger power that he used to. I mean, he's averaged in his tournaments this year 291.6.
Can I
And
ask which
last
book
year it
was
was
that?
under 300 as well. So,
Sorry, is that on Bet Online? Which book did you get that at?
yeah, Bet Online.
Okay.
Bet Online has a ton of Tiger props.
Well, I know that I saw an offshore book that had the over/under longest drive at roughly 330. So you're getting an extra 6 yards there. I thought about pulling the trigger on that one. 336 makes it even more tempting. I agree. I think that line is way too high. Tiger should be healthy, but that's a long distance right there.
Yeah.
I would feel more skeptical on taking that bet if it was 2007, but 2020 off a long layoff, I'd assume his longest drive will be around 315, maybe, give or take, something like that. So yeah, I agree with you there. I think that even though that's minus 130, I think that's a very solid play. But I actually have a couple of Tiger plays I want to get to. I have a matchup prop as well. It's a little bit more risky than the Shambo one, but naturally the line has less juice, and you don't have to lay a spread on that. But it's going to be Tiger Woods versus Brooks Koepka, and I like Koepka in that matchup at minus 108 on DraftKings. I know Koepka missed the cut last week, which is a bit concerning, but it was a tale of 2 days for him. He was awful in day one, and he was phenomenal on day two before missing the cut. Koepka is, of course, everyone knows, a very solid golfer. He had a decent layoff after his caddy tested positive for corona, so he ended up missing a week or two before coming back. Same golf tournament, was great. Same golf course, I should say, even though it's going to be a little bit different with the changes we talked about. But he had a weekend off because he missed the cut. He looked really good on Friday. I'm still a little bit concerned about Tiger hovering around the cut line. I think Koepka should look a lot more comfortable, considering the fact that he played this tournament last week. And he also looked really good on the second day. And if he was not, I'd say, 3 over on day one, he would have made the cut, as he missed the cut on the number last week. So for me, I'm going to take Koepka at minus 108 in that matchup. I think Koepka could finish top 30. I think Tiger has a shot to miss the cut. I think Tiger has a shot to finish somewhere in the 40s or 50s. So I think Koepka has a little more upside. So for me, I'll take Koepka over Tiger at minus 108 on DraftKings as my matchup prop. And my last Tiger prop, it's going to be a fun one on DraftKings. DraftKings is a very creative betting lineup. And we were talking about how many water hazards there are on the course, but I found one line on FanDuel. Usually, I thought DraftKings would be the only book that has this prop, but I found it on FanDuel as well. It's Tiger Woods to avoid the water hazard at minus 108 on FanDuel. It's minus 139 on DraftKings. You're already getting 31 cents of value. I know we're talking about how much water there is on the course, but it's pretty difficult to actually hit the water. Most of the time you hit it in the water hazard, you either shank it or you just underestimate the actual distance at play. Tiger knows this course better than anyone. And for him to avoid the water hazard at roughly a pick'em for minus 108, I'm going to take that. So my 3 Tiger props are Tiger to miss the cut at plus 300 on FanDuel, Koepka over Tiger in a tournament matchup at minus 108 on DraftKings, and Tiger to not hit a shot in the water at minus 108 on FanDuel. Dave, you have any thoughts on that water prop? Because I know it's pretty interesting and it's more of a fun prop or a gimmick prop, but I feel like minus 108 is way too low.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, well, Tiger is a very smart golfer, and Tiger is one that's not going to make a ton of mistakes like hitting it in the water too often. And this is a course that requires precision, and he's going to go for precision over bombs away. So I agree with that play. I think that Tiger can avoid the water hazard this week.
Yeah, but I have 1 prop left. I don't know how many you have, but I'll let you talk about any more that you have.
I have 3 more left.
All right, so I have 1 more. So if you wanted to, you could just run down those 3.
Okay. My second matchup, it's a tournament matchup. Last week I did hit both my matchups plays, so I'm looking to keep up with that. I had Victor Hovland over Brooks Koepka. and Colin Morikawa over Fowler. So
Well, you had sweat-free winners the entire weekend, so congrats on those.
yeah. Today, or with this next one, I'm going with Patrick Cantlay +9 over Rory McIlroy. This is not a stroke. It's just he's going to finish higher than McIlroy.
It's a final placing.
Sorry?
It's a final placing problem.
Yeah. McIlroy has not had a great restart. He's placed 32nd, 41st, and 11th in his 3 starts after the restart. This is after he finished 5th or better in his first 9 starts of the season. And so there's just something off on his game right now. And, Patrick Cantlay is one of my favorites to win, the tournament. So I think that, at him getting plus price on this one is a good matchup for me to take over Rory McIlroy. I also have Cantlay finishing in the top 5 at plus 350, and my last prop is a top 10 finish with Xander Schauffele at plus 275 to finish in the top 10.
And can I ask you about Schauffele there? Is there anything that stands out for you why you think he's going to do well?
I played him a bunch in the first couple of starts, but
I took him last week on one of my outrights, so I'm kind of curious what your thought process is there.
Yeah, he's been consistent and he has good numbers. I just think something about his play that sets up really well for this weekend. That I think that he can finish in the top 10.
Yeah, that definitely sounds fair, especially at that price point. My last prop is going to be on a golfer I already mentioned, but I'm going to be taking him to finish top 30. One thing that's been consistent so far on this the golf breakdown every week has been the top 30. I had Hovland last week at minus 120, which was an absolute just snooze fest. So that was over after day 2, and he finished 3rd. So that was an easy winner. I'm going to be talking about Gary Woodland. I know I gave him as an outright, and you might have to wonder if his putting will come back down to earth. Top 30 plus 120 on FanDuel. Came in 5th last week. I'm not really sure what more I'm looking for. I'm looking through some of the other golfers in the range. I saw Berger at plus 105, which was interesting, but he didn't play the tournament last week. Woodland top 30 at plus 120. I really thought it would be around even money. DraftKings, I believe, had minus 110. I don't have it in front of me, but that's what I remember the number being. So you're already getting 30 cents of value there. I'm going to take that for value. So my last prop's going to be on Gary Woodland to finish in the top 30 at plus 120 on FanDuel.
Not a bad play. Not a bad play.
Thanks. That was kind of my thoughts on those, but I'm pretty sure we went through everything we had. I don't know if you have any other comments or takeaways you have for the upcoming golf tournament.
But it should be a fun weekend, and just seeing Tiger play. I like watching Tiger play. I've been a fan of Tiger since.
That is a hot take right there. Finishing a really hot take of loving to watch Tiger play. Do you think it's going to impact him that there's no fans?
I don't know. He seems to block him out. I mean, but he gets excited when he makes a great shot, and he plays to the fans sometimes. So, I don't know. I mean, I know that the PGA Tour is now saying that the rest of the season will have no fans.
Probably a smart move on their part.
Yeah. Golf though, you see some, exciting stuff when, the golfers walk up the 18th, green, up to the 18th green a lot. But other than that, golf is a sport that really doesn't need fans.
I agree. It's just the fact that Tiger is the most beloved golfer, arguably.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure it'll boost their TV ratings this week.
Yeah, the fans are always rooting for him, and you have to wonder if the fan presence constantly rooting for Tiger adds a little bit of extra pressure to some of the other golfers that he's with for some of the actual pairings. So that is something to keep in mind. But I think it might have a little bit of an impact on him, but I agree with you. At the end of the day, they're all professionals, and they're just going to go out and, just swing the clubs, and hopefully it works out. So I agree with you.
The rest of the season, anytime he plays is going to be a huge ticket because, not only do they, want to see him, he has that fan draw as far as, TV or whatever, but his next victory is going to give him the all-time record for victories on tour.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, he's tied with Sam Snead at 82. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be fun to watch the rest of the season to see if he can pick up that next win.
Yeah, even though a lot of people are watching, I'm sure a ton of people would love for that record-breaking tournament to be a major, but that's asking for a little bit too much. So we'll see what happens there. But overall, we went through everything. It should be a fun tournament at the Memorial. It usually is. Hopefully, it'll be very entertaining. I don't know if it's going to be a 3-hole playoff like last week's tournament, but hopefully it'll be entertaining. Other than that, though, before we wrap up, Dave, you want to just talk about what you're working on with Winners and Whiners?
Well, I did everything basically that we went over today. I did a write-up for Winners and Whiners on this tournament. I also have coming either Thursday or Friday, or maybe even just Saturday morning, I will have my write-up for the WWE pay-per-view event that's coming this weekend. And, it should be a fun one. Horror show, it's called.
Nice.
Extreme Rules Horror Show. Sorry?
When is that WWE?
That's coming up this Sunday.
Okay, nice.
So, it should be a fun event. WWE is still one of my favorite things to write about. And, and we also have, next week we have baseball starting back up again, and everybody can start looking for our baseball write-ups on Winners and Whiners, Stats, Salt, and Pick Papa. So, yeah, it's getting exciting as real sports start to make the return. And let's just hope that they can stay returned this time.
Yep. Well, we already got through 4 months, so hopefully you can manage to get through another week or two for sports coverage. But other than that, though, that's going to be this installment of Today in Sports Betting here on Wednesday, July 15th, here with winnersandwhiners.com. Once again, if you are looking for breakdowns on other sports and breaking news, some opinions in the betting markets, always check out winnersandwhiners.com and statsalt.com, as we have articles being published every day. So if you're looking for some extra content, really not that hard to find. But once again, I want to thank all of you for joining us on today's show. If you have any comments about the golf tournament or anything in general, don't forget to like and comment on the video. We look through all the comments. If you want to talk about it, potentially we can discuss it in the comment section. But other than that, though, that's going to be the installment of Today in Sports Betting here for Wednesday, July 15th. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.